Welcome to Laying Fallow. I'm Donna Von Berning. Today I speak with Jordan Thompson. Jordan is one of the few seniors I interviewed who did not graduate from Savannah Arts Academy. In fact, she's a graduate of St. Vincent's Academy. College was never in Jordan's vision for her future. Born in Russia and raised by hotelier parents, she is most at home in the Caribbean islands. Today, Jordan is a yachtie. Depending on the season, you can find her anywhere from the shores of Maine to any Caribbean island, living a lifestyle most people wish they had the guts to do. When I asked you for a quote originally in 2020, this is what you said. I am sad that I didn't get the last few moments of high school, like prom, walking the halls for the last time, seeing my friends every day, and saying goodbye to my teachers. I'll be heading to the Cayman Islands this fall to begin my life, and I'm so excited. My friends say that I am brave, but I don't think so. I can't imagine doing anything else. I am the daughter of hotelier parents and grew up traveling all over the USVI and BVI. Island life is in my blood, and I'm ready to learn to live on my own, surrounded by water. I have an apartment, a job, and as soon as the airport opens in September, I am Cayman bound. So that's what you said to me in 2020.
Yes. They would never open until like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it was closed like 2 years. Yeah. Okay. So I would say, tell me your story. Like, clearly that didn't happen. Yeah. And where are you? What did it feel like?
So I wanted to give it about a year to see if it'd reopen, because I did have the position I really wanted to do it.
What was the job?
It was to work for Red Sail Water Sports.
Okay.
And so I had the position, I had the job, COVID hit, messed it all up. But so I wanted to still give it a chance because it was my first pick. So when that didn't happen, I started looking at my plan B and C, which was outward bound, being an instructor there and doing yachting. I was like, okay, like I want to do, it's so terrible. Yachting was my plan C. Outward bound, I started deep diving, looking into that one, realized I had to be 21 to apply. I was 19. I could not do that. I was 19, 20, couldn't do that. So I was like, okay, let's go to plan C. So I went to plan C, and so I started deep diving into yachting, figured out what certifications I needed to do, what schools to attend, how much money I had to do that. And I got certified, and took 6 months for me to land my first job. And I landed in Connecticut on a 7-foot.
So this whole journey, what did you lose? And it could be talking about what you lost that first year or over the course of 4 years. And what would you say you overcame?
Okay. I feel like I lost a really life-changing opportunity. Because, like, I could be down there right now. I could still be living there. Had this whole opportunity plan money saved. I had this whole plan in place, like, ready to go once I graduated. I even went down and applied prior to graduation. And that's how I landed it. And then I felt like I lost, because everyone's like, oh, now I'm having to work. Like, now it's this, now it's that. Like, I miss, like, not working and not worrying. And I've been working since I was 16. Like, everyone had, like, their summers to play. Like, I was working. I was working at Hogan's at 16 and then worked at the pizza shop from 17 to 21. I was on and off there while I was getting into yachting as well. And everyone was out at college, partying, doing all this stuff. And I've been working the entire time. I never got that, like, fun break, feel free, like, no worry thing, because it was what's next, what's next, what's next. And then I feel like I overcame the need for, like, wanting, like, to know and stuff, because in yachting, you kind of just get thrown in. Okay. You get put in different environments. You're with a ton of different people. You don't really know. Everyone thinks that you know, like, a ton of information before you go into it. You don't know that much information. Your interview before getting hired could be 5 minutes or an hour and a half. So you only know what you're told. And then it's up to you to see if you've gotten the answers to the questions, to look more into it, look further. But you end up, it's this sense of not knowing that I've overcome, because that's like a little scary, especially coming in at 20. I'm coming in with all these, like, grown women, grown men. I don't know who I'm with. I don't know the circumstances I'm going to be put in. And I have been put in a really dangerous situation before due to that. But luckily, that's also why I try to pick places where I know people because due to where I was, I actually was able to get out of there pretty quickly.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that. But when you say like what you overcame, what I heard you say was kind of you overcame the disappointment of knowing, like maybe realizing that the plan you had in life is not always going to work out.
Yeah.
And so would you say like surviving that? Tell me kind of how you think surviving that and having to go with your plan C.
Yeah.
Like
that kind of shocks a lot of people whenever they're like, how'd you get into it? And I'm like, it was my third option. Like it wasn't anywhere near in the running.
So because of that, do you feel like you were better suited to this plan C life? Like, or you were more capable because
it's another world.
Yeah.
Like I always describe it as like this little bubble that I'm in because all this stuff's going on like out in the real world, I'd say, because we're not really exposed to that. Everything's covered for us. Everything's handled. We live life according to the owner's needs. So you're kind of like in this little space that you don't really know what's going on outside.
Just so we know for the interview's sake, tell people what you do. Like, what is it? You're talking about yachting, but no one knows what you do. What is it that you do?
I'm a deckhand, and then on certain boats, depending, I am the mate. And so I take care of the exterior of the boat, make sure it's all nice and pretty for everyone to see. I handle basic maintenance in the engine room, like sea strainers, checking oil. I just changed the oil on my last boat. And then if I'm like with Lori, then it's more of a mate position and she takes over a decent bit of the exterior for me and I handle all the paperwork, the bills.
She's a captain, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But she doesn't like doing any of that.
Oh, okay.
So then go to me and then she'll take what I'm supposed to do for the day. And so I'll take care of contractors. I train greenies whenever I'm there. I really like to hire greenies.
What's a greenie?
Newbie.
Okay.
Like a newbie in the industry. I really like to have greenies to teach them what I know.
What did you have to learn to get that position? Like, what did you have to do? Any kind of like school certifications?
Yes. So I had to go and get certified for first aid, safety, firefighting training, survival training, where they totally put you up in this suit. You jump in the water off this platform. They have an inflatable of like, if the ship did go down and you have to practice like flipping it. And then you have to get your medical to make sure that you are physically able to work.
Did all that stuff scare you or were you good with it? Like firefighting?
It was very interesting.
Yeah?
It was very interesting. I enjoyed it, but it actually opened up like another opportunity of like, if I wanted, like, would I be into doing firefighting after I get out of yachting? Like, because I'd already be certified. And as like you grow in your certifications, you actually have to go higher in your basics as well. So there's I just did the basic first aid, basic firefighting, stuff like that. But as your license grows, so will your basic certifications as well. You'll have to have like higher levels of that.
Okay, you mentioned that you guys live in a bubble, which makes sense.
Yes.
So one of my things that I'm interested in is like the past 4 years have been like incredibly crazy social justice wise, fractures, all that kind of stuff. So there's Black Lives Matter, Roe versus Wade, all this campus protesting going on now.
We don't have any awareness on, and we don't hear about it. We don't see it unless you were too visually, like look it up yourself. We don't.
So you're completely unaware. Tell me, like now that you are back on land for a minute, for a few months, and you are aware of it, is life better when you don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Because we're working all the time. We're making friends with the people that we're around because our friends are our neighbors on other boats that you meet along the way. And so we're just all in this little bubble. And so there's no controversy. There's no battle. There's no arguing. There's just, hey, we get a day off today. Like, let's have fun. So there's never anything that could be a problem brought up because it's not something in our day to day that we deal with or have to.
And you guys aren't really watching the news or.
No, unless you were to watch it yourself, you're completely out of.
Is that a practice you might take into your life? Like just to kind of.
Yeah.
Put blinders on and focus on what's in front of you?
Yeah. Because to me, I feel like after COVID, a lot of people got bored. And so to me, I just feel like it's a lot of like just something for them to do and not as much of a, like, obviously the Black Lives Matter and that stuff like matters, but I just feel like it's just gotten so out of hand that it's like, this is their life when you could be doing bigger things and not focusing so much on that because a lot of people are this is so controversial. A lot of, you don't have to put this in there, but a lot of people are so focused on the past without realizing how much things have changed. Like, especially like with Black Lives Matter and LGBT, it's like, oh my God, we're fighting for rights. No, you're not. Nobody cares. Like, you do you. And it's not as big as they're making it. I mean, there are gay people in the industry, like all this, that. We don't even think twice about it. It's not really something that we care about. So to me, seeing like all this stuff going on, it's like.
Well, just so you know, the last person I interviewed said the exact same thing. Really? I think these people are bored. Like, I really do. Like, COVID made them bored.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the relationships you have with other people on your boat. Tell me how, and I want you to go back to like graduation or whatever. Tell me how you think your personal relationships were affected by the pandemic. And by this, I mean, do you feel like you held on to maybe some high school friends too long because there was just that nothingness? Or did you learn to let go more quickly? Like, how has your approach to friendship changed? Were you lonely? Just talk about that for a while.
So straight out of graduation, I felt like I did hold on to a friend group that I still love dearly. Like, they call me, I'll be there. Love them to death. But we've grown so far apart and things have changed. And I felt like as much as like we wanted to hold on to it, time and life like got in the way. We just kind of drifted apart. And that's what made that happen. It's not that we didn't want to. It's not that we wanted to. It's just kind of how it happened. And if we see each other, things are still great. But they're not people that I'm hitting up on the daily anymore like I was, or hanging out with them all the time.
And that's pretty natural. Yeah. Did you hang with them a little bit more than you thought you would because of COVID, or?
No, my friend group kind of dispersed when we were 18.
Okay.
Pretty heavily. And then so like we kind of like paired off into like little groups. And so I still hung out heavily with like 2 or 3 of them, but now I really never see them. But that's fine.
Yeah. So making friends, like you are in a position, a job where you are moving around a lot. How does that affect friendships for you? Is it
heavily
easy for you to make friends? Hard? How do you treat that relationships now?
It's a little bit of both. So it can be easy to become friends with a person, but then keeping that relationship there is the hard part, because a lot of my friends now are in yachting. So like I met my first yachty friend, Nick, while I was up in Connecticut on my first boat. And I went 2 years before I was able to see him again. And he just happened to be in Fort Lauderdale at the same time as me. And I was there doing another class, actually, and his boat came in. And it was 2 years before I saw him. And so a lot of it, you can make friends and you can catch up with each other every here and there. But unfortunately, you don't really see them as much or hear from them. And time gets in the way, just like with everything else. And with our jobs, it's just inevitable.
Yeah. Does that make you feel lonely, or is it something you're okay with? You know, do you have like a solid, consistent group, or are you fine with knowing that these people come in and out?
I'm fine with knowing that people come in and out, because as you change boats, your environment changes, the people around you change. So even if you like are with a boat for like 6 months to a year and you've become like this great family, you've met all these people, you're such great friends, you do things on days off together. When you leave the boat, all that goes away, because you're no longer in that position with those people. Now you're in a new position with new people. So it's very, as much as it's nice for the moment, it doesn't last, unfortunately.
Are you okay with that? Or are you ready for something different?
Depends. Depends on the boat, honestly. If it's a smaller boat, I do not handle it very well at all, because there's a lot of times of isolation, which actually led me to leave my first boat. I had 6 months of isolation. And then all the other boats were going down north. So I had 3 months of absolutely nobody on the docks with me. And
you were by yourself?
By myself. Completely by myself. No boats on the dock, nothing.
So that was worse than COVID.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
That, it led me to quitting my first boat, because, I mentally just, couldn't be in isolation anymore. Because the owner would only use the boat for, an hour or two, once a week, maybe if that. My captain left, so we were only bringing captains in for the trip, so I was completely by myself. But on bigger boats, if you have at least a captain or other crew, then it's not as hard. because you still have like other people to engage with, even if it's just limited to them.
What did you learn about yourself in that 3-month period?
That it's not good for me.
Yeah.
It's not good for me. I can't be in a position like that again. And so whenever I do apply to jobs, I am very conscious about that because it did put me in a really, really bad place and that I could never do it again.
Do you think the experience of being a high school senior and then having I'm going to call it your freshman year, like that launch year taken away from you, did it make you more flexible or did it give you a stronger craving for tradition? Meaning you missed graduation, you missed prom. Some people couldn't care less. Other people are still, I'm finding people still devastated by it.
Really?
And so therefore they place way more importance on, whatever your traditions are for family or creating traditions or.
I would say that I've definitely gotten like bigger on family over like the time span, but it's very like subjective. Like if it's this holiday or that holiday, or if we're going here doing this, then that weighs if it matters to me or not a little bit.
What the family's doing.
Yeah, what's going on. But also, I haven't really had a holiday home in 3 years. This is my first birthday home in 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, by the way. It was yesterday. I saw that.
Yeah, this is my first birthday home in 3 years. Like, I didn't celebrate my 20th. I didn't celebrate my 21st. I didn't celebrate my 22nd, which we did celebrate like my 20th, but it was a month early. Like, I was never home to like actually celebrate my birthday. So I'd say I just kind of got like used to that fact, but I also worked on Tybee prior to getting into yachting, so I never got holidays off. Even when I was here, I wasn't necessarily home for Christmas or stuff. I was working. Thanksgiving, I was working. So I never really.
Yeah. So losing the milestone of like high school graduation or whatever didn't devastate you.
No. I still do have my senior prom dress that I never got to wear though.
One day.
I will say that. I do still have it. But I mean, every time I see it, I'm just like, why? I'm like, I bought it and then I never could wear it, but it is what it is. Maybe like when I get skinny again, I can find an excuse to wear it or something.
So many academics, like researchers and everything, have labeled your classmate experience, so the class of 2020, as a trauma, that you guys experienced trauma because of what you lost. Would you agree with that? No. I don't find it traumatic. It's more of just it is what it is, it happened. But I'm also big on what's done is done. You can't go back in time and change it. So you're going to sit there and dwell over it, or you're just going to keep going? Because you can't go back in time and change it. So why just sit there on it when you could be doing like making a life for yourself, working on a career? I'm trying to buy a house right now at 23 now. Like, I can't believe that. That's impressive.
Like, there's all this. I paid off my car. I've had it since 2019. I paid it off this year. Like, there's so many other things that take priority. And if you keep sitting in the past, then you're going to lose track of that.
So tell me, what does the future feel like for you now when you think about it?
My future is still undetermined because eventually, I mean, yachting is you age out. Like all these people have like these other normal jobs, they can sit there until they're 60, 70 years old. When I turn like 40, I'd have to find something, 40, 50, find something else to do. Like you age out. So right now I'm just kind of rolling with the punches, seeing where it gets me, saving money, getting a foot.
Considering other things?
No, not yet, actually.
Not yet?
Not yet. I still heavily would like to go back to Cayman, but I also really want a house here in Savannah. So I think I'm going to push the house as the priority.
So what is the one great thing you plan to do with your life? Do you have one great thing that when you're like my age or your mom's age, that you're like, check, I did it? Or is that not something that's ever occurred to you?
It's not really something that's occurred to me, but I've also like been fortunate enough to have a lot of experiences already. So I don't like, there's nothing on my mind that like I could think that is like off the walls crazy. Like I travel for a living. Growing up, I traveled all the time. I went to other countries. I had the opportunity to work in another country. Like I've done all these activities and all these sports and all these like off the wall, like out of the box things that other people are like, wow, like I've lived in the woods for 44 days. Like I've done can't swim just on the water all the time. I've done can't swim in the woods. Like, I've done all this stuff that I'm pretty like content with where I am.
I know. And I will say, when I tell people, mutual people, that we know what you're doing, they are very impressed, you know, that what you did is not safe.
No, it's not.
And they're like, wow. So do you feel brave, or did it just feel natural to you?
I didn't feel natural, but I wouldn't say brave either, because it is scary every time. Like, it is. And I recently spoke at an Empowering Women's event for there was 85 people there or something. And I did bring up my scariest experience. Everyone did take it horribly wrong.
Yeah.
As way worse than what it was. But I had all these people coming up to me about sexual assaults and all this stuff going on in the industry. That's how they took it. That's not what my story was, but that's how they took it. And I just ran with it, because I had all these people coming up to me, and they were like, oh my God, you just spoke and said this in front of 80 people.
Yeah. Too many people were coming up to you I can't.
And they're like, you've shown us that we can speak about it publicly, and it and not to be afraid of it. So as much as it wasn't, the way that they took it wasn't what happened, but they felt better. So I didn't want to correct them.
You didn't want to take that away from them.
I didn't want to take that away.
Because you kind of empowered them, and you're empowering women.
If they felt better about it, they felt like they could speak and they could have a voice.
How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel really nice to have these people, because I'm very young in this industry, and I'm usually the youngest on every boat that I join. So I was having 30-year-olds, 35, 40-year-olds coming up to me, and they're like, oh my God.
So tell me what happened. What was this?
Oh, so it was a sailboat in St. John. I had two. It was a sailboat in St. John. I wanted to give a sailboat a try. It was a little interesting. My parents were like, eh. And so I ended up going, and right away when I got there, things just weren't right. I would try and contact my parents. He'd yell at me for being on my phone, which is normal.
Who's he? The captain?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is normal. But after hours, he'd have an issue with it. And it was just getting weirder and weirder as it went on. And I was I was there for 24 hours, and I was my signals were get me out of here. So I called, I freaked out on him one day. And I was I need to call my parents. They're going to call the Coast Guard. My dad actually already called the Coast Guard because I couldn't contact them. So I called my parents, and I was I need to get out of here. Something's not right. I feel I'm in danger. Something's not right. So we went to lunch on the beach. And that's the only time I could be on my phone, without him screaming at me, because we were in public. And so I'm on the phone with my dad. I'm on the phone with my mom. I'm back and forth. Our friend, what's her name?
Marnie.
Marnie. She was down there because she lives down there. And so they're getting
She worked at the Westin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So my parents are able to get a hold of her.
Mm-hmm.
She's able to get somebody on Water Island. And they send someone over to come and grab me. And the captain comes back with this man. He comes and he's like, hey, are you Jordan Thompson? I was like, yeah. And he goes, I never would have guessed that you were the one in distress. You look so calm. And it was a Lifetime movie, happening in real time.
Yeah.
And so then my captain sees this man come and sit next to me and everything. And he's 50-question quizzing him. He's like, you don't know her. What are you doing here? You're not a family friend. This guy's known me. Granted, this guy doesn't know me, but
neither one of them. Yeah. Nobody knows you.
You know me.
Yeah.
But one of you's helping me, and one of you might kill me. So I'm going with the one that's going to help me. So he had to drop his family off. And I was stalling the captain from going back to the boat. I'm stalling him. And eventually he's like, I'm done. We're going now. Because the guy trying to help me was I'll take you right now. And I was like, I can't. My passport is on the boat. And, because where I'm from, getting another one is really, really hard. And so I was like, I can't leave my passport behind. So now I take it with me
anywhere you go.
Let me ask you that, and I know I'm trying to stay very, very silent. Was the guy that ended up rescuing, was that Coast Guard? Was he Coast Guard?
No, he did the ferry from St. Thomas to Water Island. Yeah, he did the ferry from St. Thomas to Water Island. And so he was able to get me out of there. Marnie picked me up. The captain's losing his mind at this point.
How did you get back to the boat to get your passport?
I ended up having to go back with the captain.
And then how did you leave the boat?
The guy came up on his boat and got me, and he boarded the boat and everything, and was like, she's leaving with me right now. And the captain's getting angry. He's like, if we were in another country, you wouldn't be able to leave without my permission, because I would be on work order. So I would have to have his permission that I would be departing the boat and going home. And just threatening me and all this stuff. He got really ugly really quick. And so I'm like, where is that guy that's supposed to help me? Like, please hurry up. All my stuff's back in the bag. He gets to the boat, boards the boat, throws all my stuff in the boat, and we take off.
Wow.
But yeah, it was like a Lifetime movie happening like in
Was your heart beating like crazy?
It was so scary. It was so scary.
How old were you when this happened?
I was like 20.
20.
I was like 20 when this happened. And then my second one was on another boat. Me and Lori joined it. She left. I stayed. I really enjoyed the family, the kids, the whole shebang. The new captain that they hired, they involved me in the process. The owners could tell right off the bat I was not a fan of him, but they put him on a test period. He cornered me in the kitchen and tried to fight me. And then he did so again in a restaurant. Yep. And then he thought I was a lesbian and was up in arms about me being a lesbian, even though I wasn't. But yeah, so he cornered me in the galley. And yeah, so that was my second, like, really freaky. And I called Lori and I was like, I need help. Like, I need to get out of here. And I called my mom and I was like, what do I do? And my mom was like, call Lori. And so I drove to where she was and stayed the night and went home the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You've had to learn how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's also why I like my car going with me everywhere, because if something does happen like it has, I can get out of there efficiently. But yeah, that's the scary side to it, is that you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know the personalities that you're getting stuck with. And you don't know, and you always have to pack, if you're going to leave, you always have to pack your stuff in advance, because you don't know if they're going to go crazy on you. So it's you never know what's going to happen. It's a very interesting situation to be in, and to be this young and have to think about that stuff coming from an island. Like, I don't really think about like that often.
No, and you've had a pretty nice little
safe little
eastern seaboard coastal town life.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it was very interesting being like 20 and having to fight and get out of situations like that by myself.
Would you say that's what you're most proud of for the past 4 years?
Yeah. I feel like it's made me stronger.
Trust yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, because each of those situations, like the owners knew I wasn't a fan of the captain. The other one, I was like, signals are going off. I was like, get me out of here. Like, something's not right. I need to leave. So, yeah, definitely like trusting your gut was like huge in that situation.
Because a lot of young girls don't. I mean, you're trained not to. You're trained to be nice and not offend anyone.
Yeah.
So to me, it's impressive that you overcame that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. A lot of girls are trained to like smile, look pretty, like don't say anything that could like upset the guys. And in these circumstances, you just like, you kind of pretty much, as terrible as it sounds, is you kind of do the same thing, but of like just smiling, don't upset them, but you're leaving. Like, so anything to not like provoke them to get like physical, but like you're leaving. So like you make sure that all your stuff is packed in advance. It's off the boat. It's out of sight. Like they can't like
take your passport everywhere.
Yep. They can't touch your stuff. You can't like, you have it secured. And then you're like, I'm out of here. And they will either just say yes, or they will get angry and go up in arms, but your stuff's already gone. So all that you have to do is get yourself out of there.
Gotcha.
So that's the biggest thing, is leaving nothing to chance. Like just leaving it to where it's you, them, and leaving. All your personal stuff is out of the question because it's already off.
Okay, different question. Do you know what the quarter century crisis is?
No.
Okay, so there's a thing called the quarter century crisis that when you turn 25, you kind of wake up and you're not okay with all the uncertainty. You're disillusioned because you were told if you do A, B, and C, by the time you're like 25, you're going to have a life path, whatever that is. Whether you're going to have finished college or you're going to do this career and you might be married and you might be...
I don't believe in the ABC.
So...
Because I've always done things untraditionally. I've always like gone out of the box for things, went all the way in left field. So to me...
That's not going to be a thing.
To me, it's more of like, by then you should know what you want to do. Like you should already be like actively trying to do that and be in that position already. But I think as far as like A, B, and C, because we are young, that it's just kind of go where you can and just like get your foot in somewhere.
Start.
Like, yeah, just get going, get started. And then while you're doing that, you have income coming in, you're able to do this, you're able to do that. While you're doing that, you can figure out the rest. And then you have 5 years to figure out the rest.
And then my last question, and we can talk about some other things too if you want, is what do you think people misunderstand about 22, 23-year-olds today? Being that you guys are the upper Gen Z. You did not grow up with social media that it is now. You did not have iPhones until you were much later where, you know, even Nolan's class, like right below them, they had all that stuff in high school.
No, my first iPhone was an iPhone 5C.
Yeah.
So I don't know how old that is, but I know that one's older. But I remember when my mom and my dad got the first little iPhone 4s. And it was like this new thing because I used to just play Tetris on my dad's BlackBerry. Right. And now, like...
But you guys didn't have social media. It was for us. Like, it was for, you know, we had Facebook and Instagram was just pictures. Like, you did not grow up with any of that. So, like, I feel like there is a distinction between older Gen Z and younger Gen Z.
Yeah.
And so what do you think people, like, the world, like, what do you want them to know about your age?
That I still believe that kids shouldn't have access to social media so young because it does damage, especially to young girls. Like, it's damaging to their demeanor, their body, the appearance, the whole thing is, like, really sad to see. Because, like, I remember, like, when I first got Instagram and stuff and people were like, you're photoshopping your body, like, you don't really look like this, stood like getting hated on in high school for my appearance. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with y'all? Like, no, I'm not faking anything, but all these people doing unrealistic things that it's now having social media as a job, and it's more just how you look instead of like actually being worth anything. Like, so many people promote these things, but then those things end up like a couple months later coming out that it was really bad. And so I think that there's still like social media's now been around for a while and it's still not being looked into enough for these young people to be promoting products that they don't know and they don't understand. And then they come out that it's like, oh, it's a scam. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it did this to me. It did that. Like, and so to me, I don't like that. Like, on my For You page, I don't have a single influencer. I find a lot of my music through TikTok, but I don't have a single influencer on my TikTok feed. And I listen to a lot of Reddit. Yeah, I like it to read it to me, so I like it on TikTok. Oh. Yeah, so I listen to a lot of like Am I the Assholes on TikTok.
My favorite.
Yeah. Like, you can ask my mom. Like, I send her all this stuff and there's never a single influencer. Yeah. I think. No. I don't like the influencer thing. I just think that it's bad for the next generation coming up seeing it because they don't know. The people promoting it don't know. Nobody really knows. Everyone's just kind of following along with it.
Yeah. One of the people I interviewed said that you guys it's like the great social experiment. Like, you guys had COVID and lost a lot with COVID and were forced to figure stuff out. So figuring out, like, you know, how to get out of isolation, how to make friends and do that stuff, because you weren't thrust into things where, you know, had you chosen to go to college or something, you would have been in there with like a bazillion other 18-year-olds and figured it out.
I definitely see that social media hurt making friends because you're not as like out there as much. It's more just through a screen. So making friends is harder because we've kind of lost how to like just go up to people and say like, hey, what are you doing? Hi, my name's whatever. Like, let's go make these plans. Like, I feel like that skill has gone away. For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I feel like that skill has gone away through social media.
I've heard that again and again in these interviews. Like
that's the nice part about yachting, though. It's like, you have to.
You have no choice. You have
to interact. You have to meet these people because you're seeing them multiple times a day. You're walking by them. Like, we're all in the same world walking this. Like, no need to have your nose up.
Right.
You know.
You have to meet people.
You have.
And the other thing that came up a lot is that your part of Gen Z doesn't have sex because you don't know how to meet people. Yeah. Because you're not in that.
She done.
Well,
I'll tell you.
I don't.
Yeah. They all said it. Everyone says it. Like, they don't.
Really?
But I'm also never in a position to be able to like have that connection because I do it if I'm dating.
Right. And so if
I'm traveling and stuff. Yeah. So I don't do like one night stands. I don't do hookups. To me, like, I don't like that. Like, you do you. I don't care. But it's not for me. So in the position that I'm in, and the things that I value kind of like drove like a really heavy wedge in there that it's like I can't do both.
It was just coming up again and again, super common.
Interesting.
Like, super common that, like, compared to Gen X, our generation,
we were a little slutty.
We were, well, it was just, you know, you were around a lot of people all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you were always in, you know, even if you went to school or not, you were in the bars, you were meeting people all the time. And that's not something you guys do.
Yeah.
So,
like, I just kissed someone, and it's the first time of me kissing someone since 2020.
Oh my God, Jordan.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it is true.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, come on.
But I haven't like slept with anyone since 2020 either, because that was my last boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I just kissed someone for the first time like 3-4 weeks ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In 2024, 4 years.
Isn't that crazy? It's going to be interesting. So one of the things they said was like, it's interesting because you guys are COVID. So the whole isolation thing, which means no dating, no, like people don't know how to make friends. And so you've all had to overcome that. But then everyone younger than you who's been exposed to the social media and everything, 2 people in particular said this to me, that it's like they're guinea pigs.
Yeah.
With the social media and everything, and no one's protecting them.
No.
And we're going to have all these people that don't know.
That's why I don't like that, like, parents are so fast, like, throw their kids an iPad or stuff like that. Because it's like when I was a kid, I was running in the dirt, drinking out of a faucet. Like, my mom was like, no, you're staying
She was brave like us.
Yeah,
for sure. To me, like, I felt like that.
Well, we didn't have it.
But that also made, like, really great friendships and really great memories that I had, like, with Merritt and Caroline and Sophie, because we had that
time together.
We had that. And yeah, we watched TV, but
you were together.
But yeah, and we didn't spend a lot of time watching TV. Like, I saw this thing recently of a mom that switched her kids from like Today kids cartoons to cartoons that like I grew up with, which are the same ones that y'all grew up with. I'd watched a lot of those. And that she's seeing that her kid isn't like glued to the TV, that like he can watch it, but then he's going to go and like go do something else and go and play, versus like the kids that watch now cartoons are like, I want Cocomelon, and like can't live without it. So I definitely also think that there's a difference in even just presenting it, because now it's become more forced on kids, and parents are just like, shut up, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And hand their stuff off. And it's like, no, like I nannied for a mom that did not want her kids to have technology, didn't want any of that, didn't want the TV on. And so I only turned the TV on for 6 days, and I played Disney music on my phone while we played and did stuff. And we did outside. I tried to do like minimum an hour a day outside. She was 3.
Oh, geez.
And so, but yeah, so we just played Disney music and games and outside and all this stuff. And unless she was sick, we didn't really turn on the TV.
Random question. Would you ever consider Outward Bound now that you're of age?
Yeah. I actually sent them an email asking a question if my maritime certificates, because they're the same ones that I need for Outward Bound, but mine are under maritime. So I emailed them and asked, like, regarding a job actually in North Carolina. That was the first one I went to for a whitewater canoeing position. And I emailed them and asked if my certificates were valid. I sent them the school, like where I got it done, what year I did it, because it's still valid until this January. They're good for 5 years. And they emailed me back saying, oh, sorry, we went with like another candidate. And I was like,
I didn't ask that.
I didn't ask that. I asked if I qualified for, or do I need to get separate qualifications? But yeah, I actually did like try, and I still want to give it a shot to see, because I really enjoyed that. And they provide the same thing as yachting. They provide you with housing, food, and you get paid per expedition. But the only difference is in yachting, you get paid for and Outward Bound, you only get paid per expedition. When you're out with a group. But they still provide housing and food and everything. And but that's another thing that I would age out of and have to find something else.
Is there anything you can think of that I didn't ask you that you want to talk about? We covered a lot.
Yeah, we did cover a lot.
You hopeful for the future?
For my future? Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it's just like, you know, I'm worried about the next generation coming in. Like, I'm seeing like 2 of like my friends' little siblings growing up, and I'm just like, ooh. Yeah. It's just like, oof. Because now they're like 15 and stuff. But when they were even younger than that, because I've known them since they were like 9 or 10. And just seeing them grow up and stuff, I'm just, it's much, much different. Like one was still very much like how we grew up. And then the other one, the guy, the little boy, he's now 15. He grew up the same way that we grew up, but then the girl, same age, she grew up like with her phone, making TikTok dances, doing this, doing that. And it's very different to see like, but one couldn't afford to have the technology and one could. And so it's very different to see how much of an effect it has.
What's going to happen.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Because I've seen both sides from 2 different circumstances. So
awesome.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I think we covered it. Thanks for listening to Laying Fallow. Be sure to listen to the rest of the episodes, and to learn more and see the portraits from both 2020 and 2024, head over to my website, www.donnavonbruning.com, or to my Instagram, @DonnaVonBruning.